Okay, so here we are. We're going to address this basically wound packing, part of the stop the bleed train of thought, right? That's your goal. Anyway, that's your target. Stop the bleed. The reason it's important to stop the bleed, of course, is goes without saying, but when you bleed out, some people are under the misunderstanding when they envision, or they what that brings to mind, they hear somebody bled out, is they think they just, all their blood ran out of them, they had no more blood, and so they died. That's not the case. The truth is, red blood cells, once you've lost a certain amount of red blood cells, and you can't, we're not putting them back in, we're not replacing them through any measure. Once you have lost a certain amount of red blood cells, once it gets to a minimum level in your body's unable to oxygenate tissue, brain, just everything. You can't get oxygen anywhere into the body, and you cease to be. You give up the ghost, and that's bleeding out. All right, so we have this pretty serious puncture wound here, and there would be a lot of blood involved in that. So the first thing, of course, you're going to think of is apply direct pressure, and that can be done with your hands, of course. I'm sorry if we're going over a bunch of obvious shit, but I'm going to go over this first. So you put your hands on it, put your body weight on it, try to stop it from bleeding. All right. If you have some kind of a rags or some shit you can use, let's put this down here and get a little closer inspection on this injury here. All right, so you would want to, say you have some rags, whatever you have. It could be bandages, it could be rags, it can be gauze, it can be whatever you've got. So you're putting the pressure on here, trying to stop the bleed. Now, if it's bleeding profusely, this is going to become soaked with blood, which you do not want to do. You don't want to remove this. Once you've begun to apply the pressure, if help is coming, you want to keep the pressure on, and you want to add layers to that. If that becomes so saturated it's just soaked, you don't replace it, you don't pick it up, you just add layers to that. Now the next thing you would do to address something like this, you could use some kind of a hemostatic agent to accelerate clotting, to get some kind of clotting going, to try to slow this down and stop the bleed. And that would be depending on what you have available to you, if anything. If nothing, then you're just going to be apply the pressure. If you have some kind of rag or something, you're going to be throwing that over there, and then when it's saturated, you're going to be throwing another one over there, and just continue to apply the pressure until help arrives. But what do you do if help's not coming? If there's no help coming, what are you going to do? I have to check my food. I'll show you in a second. Okay, now, if we're going to use some type of hemostatic agent to accelerate the clotting process, try to get this under control. If you had, you may have something like this, easily obtainable. They have this at Walmart, actually, right? Bleed stop. I've never used this product, but reading the ingredients, it's, well, I'm going to be honest with you, I've never used it, but I don't have any reason to doubt that it works. I have used, or I am familiar with, let's put it that way, I am familiar with combat gauze, okay, so, which already is gauze, folded up in there like an accordion for easy, quick access, and it's already has the hemostatic agent in the gauze. So, if you don't have combat gauze, but you may have, and we're talking about if people are really thinking there's going to be some kind of civil war, there's going to be some kind of craziness. I've heard all kinds of extremes that people are thinking it's going to be. I don't know, some of these people think it's wishful thinking. They really would like to, I don't know, it's overly dramatic. It's not going to be that. But if it were that, if you really think that, then you need to have some of this shit. You can go to Walmart and get some of these. This would be, you would tear this open, tear this package open, it's powder. and you would pour this into the wound, as deeply into the wound, as much of it you can get in there. And then you would go ahead and continue, if you didn't have anything else, with your direct pressure, you know, with some type of something absorbent, you know, to hopefully clean, to put over top of it and push down and apply pressure. If help isn't coming, then you're going to hopefully have gauze on hand, or you're going to hopefully have some kind of a bandages on hand. You may not have, you know, ideal stuff like combat gauze or a pressure bandage or any of that, but you could still make do with, like, some of this from Walmart. It's going to go a long ways versus not having it. This should begin the clotting process in, I don't know, 8 seconds, 8 to 12 seconds, maybe 8 seconds. So, you know what the combat gauze is what we would do. And what I would do first off, if I can't stop this thing from bleeding and help's not coming, all right, I'm not just going to let him continue to bleed while I'm trying to figure out what in the hell to do to stop it. If I'm going to remove these, right, they're already saturated. It's not stopping. I can't stop it with just pressure, and nobody's coming anyway. All right, think about that. If you really think there's going to be some kind of Civil War shit in the streets, nobody's coming. So what I would do is, you absolutely, if you think something like this is going to happen out there, you absolutely should have several of these tourniquets. Now, this is a cat tourniquet, and this is not the latest iteration. This is like, the newest one has, you notice this one, put my glasses on, I can see a lot better. If you're ever laying on the table or somewhere on the ground and you're about to bleed out, and I'm trying to help you, make sure I got my glasses on. All right, this one, as you can see, the buckle, right? It has to pass through this buckle 2 different places. This tourniquet has been improved since then, and it only has one place that has to go through the buckle. It's much easier to apply, especially self-apply, self-administer. But what you do is you would get this on, okay? You would put this on. If this is a limb, this could be a leg, this could be an arm, and you're going to hear people are going to say, hey, I wouldn't pack a wound in an arm, or I wouldn't pack a wound in a leg, maybe up in the shoulder, maybe here, maybe in the groin area where I can't get a tourniquet or something like that. You're not going to be able to pack a wound in the abdominal cavity or anything. Then you're going to be looking at like a chest seal, or maybe 2. But nonetheless, you can take this tourniquet, this is what I would do, and it has a windlass on it, and you put this around the limb. So I'm going to put it around here. You put it up as high as possible. The reason why I put it up as high as possible is, you don't know where, if there's any other blood source, any source of loss of blood. So you want to put this on here. You want to crank it down nice and tight. Okay, crank it down nice and tight. Then you want to take this windlass. Once it's down tight, you go through that buckle. I'm not going to go through all that. Then you take this windlass, and you turn this windlass. Turn this windlass, crank it down nice and tight, right? And then you could lock in right here, like this, okay? And you can fold this over, and you could actually write the time that you applied this tourniquet on there if that were necessary. But in this instance right here, nobody's coming. He isn't getting any help. I want to put this tourniquet on. I want to tighten it up enough that I don't have any pulse down here. If I lose the pulse down here, I'm good. All right, now I can pull this shit off, since it hasn't worked. If it was working, it was different. It's not working, so I pull this off, crack open this combat gauze. This is what I have. If you don't have combat gauze, again, you could pour some of this from Walmart into the wound and use just regular gauze. Now, I'm not going to tear this combat gauze open because I don't feel like going out and replenishing my stock. I have some, but like, I have some, but I don't have a lot, so just in case. I don't think I'll ever need it, but just in case. So what I'm going to use instead is, I'm just going to use some regular gauze. Maybe that's all you have. Now the combat gauze is folded like an accordion, so that you can pull it out very easily. This is not, okay? So you may even, well, I wouldn't recommend that, but you take this gauze, and what you do, right? You got your wound here, you Got a tourniquet up here so it's not bleeding. We take this gauze and we would actually just begin to pack this gauze down into this wound. And again, if this is combat gauze, it's already got the hemostatic agent in it. We'll pack this gauze in, pack it in, pack it in, pack it in, and we get as much in there as we can possibly put in there. Put it all in there if you can get it in there. Just pack it in that wound, pack it in, pack it in, pack it in, pack it in. Okay, once I've got this wound packed, once this wound is packed, like in this instance, I may take this remainder and I either wrap it around it or I would cut it off. But then, for sure, I would take a pressure bandage. I would take a pressure bandage. And I will sacrifice one of these to show you. Cut this pressure bandage open. The directions are right inside of it. If you have a pressure bandage. If you don't have a pressure bandage, then once you've packed this wound, you want to wrap more gauze around it and wrap whatever you can get around it. Even take something like this, maybe the last thing, maybe I would wrap this gauze completely around this, like this, right? Try and wrap it up really good, really tight. Then maybe I could even take this and either rip it, tear it up, or whatever, wrap it around it and tie it together as tightly as possible over the wound. And that's assuming, you know, maybe you've dumped some bleed stop in there and you've packed it and you've wrapped it up. What this pressure bandage does is when you unwrap, you take this pressure bandage out of here, it wraps around and it actually has a means of locking itself in place once it's super, super tight. You can lock it down in place tight, so it's applying pressure. That's what a pressure bandage is. You can Google it, you can see what it is for yourself. Since it's double packed, I'm not going to bother opening that out of that shrink wrap pack. That's basically it, you know. Then what I would do then is begin to loosen this tourniquet. I would begin to loosen this tourniquet because, again, if help's not coming, if you already know nobody's coming, it's on you. So if you think you got something going here, you could slowly begin to loosen this tourniquet. That blood flow is going to be restored in that limb, and see if it bleeds or not. It's not rocket science. You know, is it sufficient? Are you going to stop that bleed? If so, if it looks good, then you can take that tourniquet off. You actually can take that tourniquet off. You want to keep an eye on it. God help you. I don't know where you're going from there. There's absolutely no help coming, but you have managed to stop the bleed. If you had to leave the tourniquet on, right? Maybe you don't have the ability to pack a wound, or maybe you didn't have any blood stop or combat gauze or any of this kind of stuff, right? Then you know, you would just put the tourniquet on there, continue to apply pressure, tourniquet until you don't have a pulse any longer, and that tourniquet can actually stay on there a lot longer. You know, in recent years we've gone back to relying heavily upon tourniquets, heavily enough that if you were in combat and if you really think there's going to be a real civil war, like a combat situation, you're probably going to want to carry like 3 of these on your person, you know. And what you should also carry on your person is, you know, your individual first aid kit, your IFAC, with maybe, you know, no known allergies and my blood type right on it. Because this isn't for helping other people necessarily. This is for you. If somebody comes to you and finds you, you know, injured and in need of assistance, that's what they're going to treat you with. You have everything you need right on you. You understand? The combat's some real shit. I mean, that's why you have that on you. So that if you get blown up, if you get shot up, if you get cut up, if you get diced up, that maybe somebody can attend to you and use the gear and equipment that you're carrying on your person to take care of your wounds, to keep you alive. So anyway, that's it. It's pretty basic. Like I said, these cat tourniquets, I think they're the best tourniquets, but they're the latest rendition is better than this one, but this one's still great. If you were going to leave the tourniquet on, then you definitely would like to have maybe a marker that you could write the time on top of that white tag. so that you know, anybody that comes thereafter to help this person with more skills, more equipment, that they have that to refer to. They know how long that tourniquet's been on. If you've got the wound packed, if you've got a hemostatic agent in there with that, and you've loosened the tourniquet and it appears that you've got the bleeding under control, then you could take that tourniquet and loosen it all the way up. Me, in most situations, I wouldn't remove it, but I would loosen it all the way up so that you got blood flow again to that limb, just in case if it starts to bleed again or whatever else could happen, you got it already on there. Anyway, that's about it. Yeah, you can see on the picture this pressure bandage, if you can look really closely. I don't know how clear this is coming in, but you can see which side it faces the wound. It tells you, and then you'll see that that clip. That's how you secure it. Tighten it up and secure it after you've wrapped the wound. But it's just some idea. Now, you're probably there are gonna be people that are gonna disagree and say, oh well, you didn't do this right, you didn't do that right. Well, here's what I have to say. This is what I'm going to do if I find you bleeding out like that. So I don't think, you know, sure, there's certainly more people out there much more skilled and experienced than myself, for sure. But there are many, many more people out there that would have no idea what to do for you at all. So I think odds are I'm going to keep you alive, is what it is. All right, you guys take care. Have an awesome night. And if there's a desire or request for it, maybe I'll make some more videos along these kind of lines.